I think clicker is not
The
clicking.
clicker is failing. Well, here's your board. Just in case, as you can see, it has grown. For those of you who do not know, Robin Christian is our president. So let's give Robin a round of applause. Robin has been a staple and a foundation over the last year plus, right, Robin, in regards to this particular role, but also meeting individually with all of us as well as Lindsay to go ahead and fill these board seats and be able to kind of get ICF Houston back where we want it to be. So if you'll find this information on our website as well. The more user-friendly website if you have not visited yet. Next slide, please. We're really wanting to focus too on connecting coaches and be the pinnacle, point of where the Houston community finds coaches within the market. So we don't want you to go to a platform. We want you to come to our website. So make sure as a member, you're taking full advantage of the directory. As we kind of scour and look at the directory, some have photos, some have a little bit of information. But you have paid for your membership, so take full advantage of being able to use this resource as an opportunity in order for those to find you if you're looking for clients as well. So our mission is to lead the advancement of the coaching profession in the Houston community. As you can see with the upgrade to the website, it's more user-friendly, being able to kind of get programming back on track and a regular cadence. We're wanting to make sure that you have a lot of resources as well as being part of the Southeast cluster. Hopefully you're taking full advantage of those webinars, those virtual webinars that Austin, San Antonio, and now Dallas, North Dallas is offering. Our values are integrity, excellence, collaboration, and respect. Please don't leave here without meeting someone new or connecting with someone new as well. Take advantage. You got your car, you took the trip, you made it here in person, you made that decision, so make sure you use it to expand your network. And then our vision is coaching is an integral part of a thriving society in Houston, and every ICF Houston member represents the highest quality of professional coaching. Next slide, please. Congratulations. Do we have any milestone members with us today? So we can give you, or virtually, we'll give you some snaps and a little applause for those that, for those have gone on the road, know that it was no easy road to travel. So congratulations to those that have successfully secured their credential. On to recertification. Next slide. We are here at the presentation. So I didn't want to get this wrong, so I have it written down. So for Barbara Stewart was part of the pilot for the ICF advanced certification team and coaching and earned the ACTC in September of 2022. She has been actively coaching teams since 2014. Barbara is well known in the coaching community as well as in the Berkman community as well as our Berkman has been so kind to be a great partner of ICF Houston to allow us to use their facility. And so when I was talking with Trish and she's like, Barbara is the speaker, do you mind? I was like, absolutely, because Barbara's a part of this community as well. Prior to founding, tell me again. Excellus Partners in 2010, Barbara served as a financial and business advisor to C-suite executives and business owners. Barbara earned her professional certification of PCC designation in 2011, and she also is a Gallup certified strengths coach, as well as we know a Berkman certified professional. She earned her bachelor's of business administration degree from none other Sam Houston State University. So we're and a native Texan. She enjoys finding the fishing, the saltwater bays, and training with her horse. without further ado, Barbara Stewart.
I noticed you didn't try the horse's name.
I did not. I did
It's
not. I'm a
Versace.
smart.
So, Excellus stands for Accelerate Us. So it is a name that came to me way back in 2009, 2010, when I was setting up the business and moving into coaching. And I wanted something that represented that forward movement that coaching brings to clients. And now we're bringing that to teams. As Monique mentioned, I earned the ACTC in 2022. It's a mouthful. And was part of the pilot program for when they were establishing the requirements for that new credential. So I'll talk about some of that later today. We are focused, and we'll have to do this next slide, please.
You want to give it a try? I still have faith.
We had it working.
Yep.
Okay.
I did that.
So we're going to have two parts today. What do clients need to know about team coaching? And then what do coaches need to know about the credential? So we're going to break it into those two. This is really educational today. It is something I get very excited about. I'm very passionate about team coaching. So there's a clock over here that says 10:30. So we've got a long time until 1 o'clock, right? So I will keep an eye on time to keep my passion in check, and so that we have time for questions at the end. I'm going to focus on delivering content, but if there's something that's unclear, please let me know, and we'll address that question. All right, so to get started, I want all of you to think about, we're talking about teams. What has been the best team that you've ever been a part of? The best team.
The military, Air Force.
And now that you have that best team in mind, think about what made it the best team.
Share values, we all have
Share values.
integrity, core values.
What else comes to mind?
I was part of a work team that was really strong, and the thing for me was trust. A lot of trust.
Having tough conversations.
Communication.
Couple chats, common purpose and clear goals. Small and mighty. Having fun.
Ooh, I like that.
Thanks, Stacy.
Okay, so you can imagine where we're going next. Think about the worst team that you've been a part of.
Or communication.
Communication, right?
Lack of those things.
Or lack of
Slip of
communication.
everything we put out there.
Yes. Other things.
From the chat, no psychological safety.
Pursuing individual objectives.
No support.
Oh, nice.
Indifference.
Indifference to
False indifference. To the team.
Okay.
will go.
They're abbreviated. This is not going to be published anywhere. It's for us to think and for us to reflect back on as we go through today.
Dialing it in.
Dialing it in.
Yeah.
What we're doing here?
No, for worse, team members who are just dialing it in.
Ah,
No
I see.
motivation.
I see.
From the chat, lack of alignment on values, goals, and strengths.
Maybe even competition within the team.
Yeah. Okay, abbreviations up here. It's not an official list going anywhere. But we'll keep this in mind as we go through this today. Very simple exercise, right? But what was interesting was your laughter when I asked about worst team, because we've like all been there, and sometimes the only thing you can do is kind of chuckle about it. But I encourage you to do this if you start working with a team. Very, very simple exercise. So now we're ready for the next slide. Always helps to start with the definition to make sure that we're on the same page. So I just had you think about best team, worst team, and those teams could have varied between 2 to 4 people, all the way up to 20 to 25 people. And they could have been pulled together for a variety of reasons. But let's start with a definition of team and work from there so that we're all on the same page. The next click, please. And one more. I hate when you do this to someone who's helping you.
No.
Thank you so much. So Katzenbach and Smith in 1993 defined real teams in this way. A team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goals, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. One sentence. I love this because it captures almost every aspect that we will talk about today in terms of teams. Simple, straightforward. There are a couple of things that we need to focus in on here. One is this small number. So I mentioned you might have had 2 to 4 on your team or up to 20 or greater. When we're talking small number with a team, it's generally 6 to 8 people. 10, okay. Beyond 10, we're really stretching the limits of team. You start getting to the point where you're going to have subcommittees or sub-teams, and the ability to be cohesive and work together gets really strained. Complementary skills, a common purpose. We're going to talk much more about that. Performance goals, and they hold themselves mutually accountable. So there's that connective tissue within the team that they feel accountable to each other and committed to that common purpose. The other thing we need to define is group. So how does group differ from what we've seen up here with team?
Take a stab at it.
Yes.
A group is a number of people who might have something in common. A team is working together towards a common goal.
Yes. Anything to add to that?
I would say that a team is more than the sum of its parts,
Mm-hmm.
where a group you could have experiences still working together, pulling those experiences. But their outcome doesn't depend
On each other.
and there's no complementary skills to achieve it.
Yes. And I think it's important that we define this here, particularly for us as coaches, because we often do group coaching. And that is with people that aren't connected by that common purpose. It might be in a company, and maybe we've gone across all the middle managers and we have them in a group leadership development program, for example, but they're not a team per se, because they don't have that united common purpose. So I wanted to get that out as well, that we're all on the same page as to what team coaching means. We're not talking about group coaching. Okay. Next up. Conditions for team success, essential and enabling conditions. Again, I'm really strong about definitions and setting where are we coming from. This comes from Dr. Richard Hackman, and I wanted to put this out there. This is the way Barbara thinks about team coaching. What you're going to find if you decide to pursue team coaching in the credential, there are a lot of different ways to do team coaching. I see Steliana is nodding her head. Appella ACTC in the audience, and I'm willing to bet that she would come up here and give you a different presentation, right? We're going to have some of the same core fundamentals. We're going to talk about competencies later, but there are a lot of ways to engage with a team in what we're going to define as team coaching. But here's what I believe. I found that Dr. Richard Hackman put something together that was very important. The essential elements of being a real team, and he defines that in terms of that small number and people that are connected with the compelling purpose. It also needs to be the right people. So many of you, you've done some level of team coaching, you might have gotten in there, discovered that there's some friction and maybe there's not the right people in here. And sometimes our teams are made up of people simply because they're at a certain level. And this is certainly true with the C-suite. So you find that you're coaching a C-suite team, and it may not be all the right people that you need once that compelling purpose is defined. But they all have the C-suite title, therefore they're all there. The other enabling condition, we'll talk about some of these clear norms of conduct. How are we going to behave with each other? Behaviors and norms. A supportive organizational context. Dr. Hackman goes into great detail about this, but just think, your team needs to have things they need to have in order to do their job, whether that's data, whether that's people, whether that's training and development for themselves, whatever those things are they need to support, we need to have an organizational context that supports that. Last on here is team coaching. And I wanted to make that point that what we're talking about today in the way that I view team and team development is not starting here. It's starting with those essential points first. And if those are in place, then team coaching can serve. If they're not in place, if you don't have the right people, there's not a compelling purpose, then it's like pushing on a noodle. Any of you ever done that? I don't play with my food often, but occasionally you push on a noodle, it's going nowhere, it just wads up. So we've got the essentials in place. I will tell you quite often, most teams do not have a compelling purpose. They have a kind of sort of halfway purpose. And part of the work that we do in team coaching helps to refine that, which helps to build out some of the other elements we're going to look at today. Questions at this point? Yes.
So when people don't want to be there on that team, does that make them that they're not the right people, or does that make them Motivated or they don't have.
I would say we don't know yet. Because I might not be real interested if there's not a compelling purpose. You know? How many of you ever said, why am I in this meeting? Or why am I on this team? Great question, thank you.
Is that the compelling purpose? Is that something that you're looking to discover in like a pre-meeting with like the manager or the executive of the team? Or is that something you're looking to discover with the team before you move on to your next objective?
And both, yes, great question.
Barbara, there
Yeah.
was just a request from the hybrid group around just restating the question.
Oh, thank you.
Prior to
Yes.
responding.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So the last question was compelling purpose. Do we discover that with the team leader first, or do we do it later with the team? And it's both. It depends. Great questions. This slide is courtesy of the International Coaching Federation. And I think it's very important to have the conversation with the team leader around this slide to help establish what team coaching is and is not. When they were putting together the competencies and the definition of team coaching, the ICF started creating this. I know it's busy for a slide, but you'll have it in a copy of the slides and you can reference that. What excites me, I'm so passionate about this, but it goes from team building, team training, team consulting, team mentoring, team facilitation to team coaching. These are all different modalities, things that we might use as a team coach with our teams. But team coaching, two key areas here, area of growth and team dynamics and conflict resolution. As you read across here, you notice that the only one that addresses those is the team coaching. So in the marketing advertising text that we had for this, it was about how do you get a leader to understand that team coaching is more than just team building. Team building serves an essential function, but so many of the leaders that we encounter are like, oh yeah, we did the ropes way back when, or oh yeah, we've done this. And it was okay, we had fun, we laughed, but did it do anything to help us work better together? Not really. The other important aspect is who owns it. So as we look across here, the people that own it, there's my East Texas accent, instructor, trainer, consultant, mentor, facilitator, and team. When we talk about facilitation, the team owns it in team coaching. This is very important to help the leader understand and to help the team understand that they own the process. Because when you start working with a team, doing team coaching, the majority of them are going to think you're doing this. And then when they realize, oh, it's a little different, they think you're doing some of this. Team coaching, the team owns the agenda. And that takes continual re-engagement with that team to help them understand that. Some get it faster than others. But an important point to share with your leader to prepare them for what's coming. And what I have found is that leaders that have experienced coaching one-to-one get this pretty quickly. And they're able to convey to their team that this is our time and space to resolve our team issues. All right, I think we're ready for the next one. Okay, this will be the fun one.
I got
Just
it.
click for a little while.
I got it. Just wink at me when you're ready.
Another wink, another wink. another one, another, and one more. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, 4 more. There we go. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, every team coach will have their own approach. Part of the training that I went through, we had to put together our team model. And gosh, with all the coaching I've done, so there's this aspect of it. There's the form, storm, norm, perform that you guys all recognize, right? But then there's, oh, what did we say over here? Trust, right? And psychological safety. Oh, there are all those elements. How do I get that in there in a model? Oh, and then what is the team doing, right? Oh, we have tasks, relationships, process, growth. This is a model. It's not as circular as it may seem in terms of working with a team, but it can help the team grasp what team coaching is going to help them accomplish. What you may recognize, does anyone recognize what's in the center circle? 5 dysfunctions. 5 dysfunctions. Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is just trying to get something that you can use to talk about what team coaching is, just in the way that we try to describe one-on-one coaching. There's no description for it, right? But this helps particularly process-oriented people grasp that there is a framework. There's some science behind it with Tuckman, with Lencioni's work. What's missing? Celia?
Something missing from the model?
Uh-huh.
Morning. Morning,
Oh, the adjourning?
yeah,
Okay, yes,
different words for it,
yes, yes.
an unfinished business.
Yes, great point. So there is, with Tuckman's model, form, storm, norm, perform, this is what you're referring to. There is also a 5th that was added after he passed called adjourn. So if you have a team that's not going to be together long-term, there is an adjourn stage. Most of the team I work with stay together, so I leave that off of here. But great point. Thank you, Cecilia. And intended to mention that. There's one other aspect. And since this is my model, I don't expect you to guess it, but I thought I would put it out there. And we have another click. So there's an I in team coaching. Everyone says there's not, but there is. So one more click. Awareness. This is where each individual team member is considered in the team development process. There is an I in team. It's every 6, 8, 10 people that are part of that team. And if they don't know and understand what they bring to the table, their talents, their strengths, their weaknesses, their stressors, then you're going to have a hard time building and getting that. Someone said it earlier, the multiplier effect is not going to come through if you don't have this piece. So about a month ago, I did a podcast with another team coach, Lisa Walsh. She's part of our chapter. And what was fun about it was we were both on at the same time, so you could hear the differences in our approach. The fun part about it was we both wholeheartedly agree that we won't do the teamwork without the I. It has to be an early part of the process. And you'll begin to understand why as we continue on. So I'll take a pause, see if we have any questions. All good? All right. So I promised you sample of what team development might look like. So we looked at the model, we understand all those aspects that we're trying to incorporate. But how does that actually get done? A variety of ways. But I've given you 3 options, so I'll walk through those. You may start with the leader who's unfamiliar with team coaching and say, let me help assess your team. And there are a few ways to do that. You can start with team interviews. So you interview 30 minutes, the 6 to 8 to 10 people that are on the team, find out what's working, what's not working, find out what could be the biggest change the team could make, questions like that, and pull all that information together. The other thing you can do is use the assessment from Lencioni, the team assessment, and measure trust, accountability. I love seeing all the other team coaches in here nodding. You can measure trust, accountability, healthy conflict, all of that. And you can pull that all into a report for the team leader and say, here's what I've learned. Here are the key themes that I hear that's keeping your team from getting where they want to go. And here's what I would recommend. And that's option C. You may stop at that. If the team leader says, no, I'd like to solve some of those problems, you might go on to the next level. You could do it without the team assessment, but at some point you're going to want to bring that in, the Lencioni work. And then this is the I part. So Berkman gets a big plug here, and not just because we're in their offices. They're a wonderful sponsor of ICF. They're also the tool that I use for working with the I in team. The information that comes out of that is great for the individual, it's great for leadership development, and it's great for the team. From there, you can go forward. You'll see these aspects here are around a team charter. Are we familiar with team charter?
No.
No, I heard a no. So a team charter is a document that the team puts together that expresses why they're there. It captures the compelling purpose. It talks about membership, who's a member and why are they a member. It talks about governance. How are we going to make decisions? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to resolve conflict? And what are the behaviors and norms that we expect from each other? Defined in a document, usually early on in the process. It can be one of the first things. You can move this up ahead of the Berkman and then have the Berkman or whatever assessment you choose to use come next. But it's early on in the process. And the team charter is a living document that the team will revisit and amend as necessary. Initiatives and milestones and scorecards back to the task and the compelling purpose that the team is with. That's going to define what your initiatives are and your milestones. How do they know they're making progress? So again, any questions? Yep.
So I have some background in project management, and the question I have is like the role of the sponsor, for example, in project management is somebody that's not necessarily working day to day with the team.
Yes.
But yet they have a huge influence on the team. They're usually a higher level executive or somebody that's overseeing the project from a leadership standpoint, but they're not day to day. So is a role like that will that role be part of this team, or is this typically done only for the official like formal that is doing the work?
So the question is about sponsors, and the sponsor may or may not be part of the team. Did I get that right?
Well, the sponsor is kind of part of the team, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, should somebody that is influencing the team but is not necessarily officially part of the team be involved in all of these assessments, interviews?
I'm gonna say generally speaking, no. If they're a sponsor and they're not part of the team that is working together toward that common purpose, then they would not be part of this. They will likely be part of your conversations and your reporting back on how the team is going, because they're the ones writing the check. Does that answer
Okay,
your
yeah.
question? Yeah. I've had more of the teams that I've worked with, it's been the team leader who's also the sponsor, who's part of it. I have had teams that I've worked with that have been sponsored, but it's more of that former. Good question. Any others? Let's see where this takes us. Oh. Says it.
Build up on his question actually about the sponsor. Again, who is the client for the team coaching and client?
Yes.
It depends who contracts. And if the sponsor is CEO or the senior vice president, and the part of the coaching is not just the team working, but the way the team works with stakeholders, with customers, then with the permission of the team,
Right.
you may introduce stakeholders, but that's part of the contract.
Yeah.
You would not go and introduce customer stakeholders if the team hasn't identified it or if it's not part. So
Yeah.
you have to be very careful there of who's applying.
Yes. Yes, no, that's great.
So the sponsor can be included if the team agrees or the team feels that the sponsor should be being included, then that's how you involve the sponsor.
Yes. And we're about to get into the competencies where more of this is gonna come up. Which may not answer all of your questions, but we'll do our best. So that next slide that just magically appeared on its own, it's teams proliferating.
It really is.
So what this represents is that when you have the opportunity to go through this process with a team and an organization, it is a great way to start feeding it within the organization. You're coaching at the C-suite level, and the CFO takes it to their team, the CHRO takes it to their team, and it just starts trickling down. Because they have that wonderful experience of working with a team that's, hitting on all cylinders, and they want to do it with their team. You'll see some comments later. I put some client testimonials in here, just so you can see what the results look like. What does this get you? So you'll see that in a few minutes, but I think maybe we're heading to that.
There was just a comment from the hybrid group around the project management discussion. It's from Tricia. The roles and responsibilities, initiatives, milestones, and scorecard are a key element of project management. Regarding option A, my experience is that teams that use the PM methodology often do this, while other teams may not and really need this as a part of their development.
Well said.
Thanks, Tricia. Thank you.
Yes. So this is what success sounds like. I think there's one reference in here to team coaching, but it's about what happens with the team and for the leaders. So this very first one is a team I worked with quite recently, and our first team session, even before the interviews, was around their Berkman results. So they had a one-on-one for their Berkman, and then we came together as a team. And it was part of their offsite for planning for the year ahead. And you never know how those things are going to go, right? But when they saw their team map up on the board, and when we talked about some of those behavioral components, they're like, oh my gosh, now I see why we have challenges with this. And the beauty in that for us coaches is that the client sees it. right? We're not being prescriptive. We're not coming in and going, no, you guys, you don't have any in this quadrant, right? We're not talking that kind of language. We're working with the client so they see their team and they're the ones that live it and breathe it every day and recognize that's why we have this challenge. So with that team in particular, we were the first day and the first few hours of that day, and the conversations that they had afterwards were incredible, beyond what they had ever been able to have before, because they had a language and they had an understanding of each other. So you can take a look at the rest. The next slide talks about the value that clients receive. So I just took kind of those words and put them into things that you can share with clients around the value of team coaching. So now let's talk competencies. Let's talk about the advanced certification in team coaching. Who was I having a conversation with? Oh, Tamara, we were talking beforehand and she goes, I was trying to do my CCEUs and get recertified and they keep changing the rules. So I'll share with you my experience in going through the pilot. I will tell you the rules have already changed. You will appreciate that they are not as onerous as they were for the pilot. So that's a good thing. You have to have a credential in order to apply. 60 plus hours of team coaching education. There were a few providers of this when I started the process. They have proliferated, like the slide that we had earlier. There are lots of providers out there of team coaching. You do want to do your reference checks and make sure that they're, what's the word that we use with ICF? Credentialed? No.
Accredited?
Accredited, thank you. With ICF for this program. There is a way to go through it based on experience and have fewer hours of education. I made that a footnote. You can go look it up if that applies for you. 5 team coaching engagements within the last 5 years. We had to have 10 in the pilot, and the 5 years included COVID. So yes. Complete at least 5 hours of coaching supervision. That was 10 when we went through. How many of you have done supervision? Maybe I need to define supervision too, because I know those of us who raised our hands know what it is and understand. So when I saw this in 10 hours, when I started through the certification process, it's like, holy cow, how am I going to get another person into my team coaching session to observe me in this 6 to 8 to 10 person intact team? I'm coming in as a stranger somewhat, and then I'm going to have somebody else coming in that's watching me. I don't know how this is going to work. Fortunately, that's not what supervision means. Yay! Supervision is this wonderful process for a coach where you have a supervisor who's also been accredited, and they're there to support you as a team coach. Because we haven't talked about this a lot today. I've focused on the fundamentals, but when you're coaching a team of 6 to 8 to 10 people, and there's all that interpersonal stuff going on, and there's someone pulling you aside at the coffee break and whispering something to you about the team, you got a lot that you're carrying. And that's what supervision is about. It's about having someone that you can work through team scenarios with, and that you can share the things that are coming up for you that may be challenging to ethics or confidentiality. It is a wonderful resource, and I'm delighted that it is part of this credentialing process. The exam is wonderful, taxing, but wonderful. I was exhausted at the end, but it is really well done. If you wonder how can you have an exam on team coaching, there are people out there that study this stuff and know how to test for it, and they did a great job. You can go here to find out more. So let's talk about a few of the competencies, just to give you a flavor. This is what the structure is. On these next few slides, you're gonna see a lot of words. I don't expect you to read a lot of the words. What I want you to know is that the core competencies that we learn as a coach, those stay the same with team coaching. Team coaching just adds some things to it. So the reason that I had case studies and client work going back far enough to qualify for the certification is because I've been doing coaching for so long, and I've been doing this and figuring out what this should look like. And now the ICF has given us a framework for what that looks like. Next slide is ethics. And if you push it one more time. Yeah. So Celiana made reference to this earlier. When we're coaching a team, we're coaching that team as a single entity. 6, 8, 10 people, one entity that you're coaching. And that sometimes can be challenging for us as the coach. It can be challenging for the team to remember as well. But your emphasis is on coaching the team and what is going on for that team. How are they developing? How are they benefiting? What's challenging for them? Are there questions around this one? You're going to see it again. So, and I think there's another one on here. Adopts more directive team development modalities only when needed to help the team achieve goals. So this is the first time that ICF has said something around being directive. We know, we know as coaches that we are not to be directive, and that our modus operandus is questions and pulling it out of the client. Yes. There are times when we are coaching one-on-one where we need to be more directive to help a client with understanding something, with helping a client with education, knowledge that they may not have. You could ask me questions all day around physics, and I'm never going to come up with the answer, right? And sometimes our clients are in that place around leadership or other things they may not have experienced yet. The same is true with teams, and we may adopt. I did this just yesterday, so some of my friends here, we were at the same place yesterday coaching some teams, and we were talking about feedback, and I got the blank look. And so I knew that giving feedback, they probably didn't have a methodology for giving feedback effectively. So situation, behavior, impact came up on the whiteboard, and we talked about a framework for giving feedback effectively. That's more directive, extremely helpful to a team, right? So you will find yourself back to that slide that was so busy. You'll go into those different modalities because that's what the team needs at the time. But again, we're more about the team owning the agenda than us. Next slide. Establishes and maintains agreements. We know how important this is one-on-one. You establish the overall agreement. You establish the agreement in the session. The client goes a different direction. You reestablish the agreement. So now we're talking about this, right? Okay, the same thing happens with teams. You'll find yourself recontracting a lot with teams. But what I wanted to emphasize here is, if you'll do another button, it'll emphasize it. There we go. It explains what team coaching is and is not, and how it differs from other modalities. So the slide that I had up there with the different modalities is going to be like your best friend. Use it, refer back to it. I find even with teams where some have had one-on-one coaching, they're familiar with it. I need to revisit, this is what we're here for. Barbara's not bringing the agenda. the team has the agenda. And I have to remind them that my job is not facilitation. It's not team building. It is helping you develop as a team, through team coaching. Next one. Partners with the team leader. Sometimes I forget the things I emphasize. This one's very important. Have a team leader that at session 2, after session 2, said, I need to have a conversation with the team leader. Because he was a little quiet, reserved, almost non-participative, wasn't participating. And he had been very excited about this and had coaching. Oh, thank you. And I had a conversation with him. I said, so what's up? Has something changed? Is there something I need to be aware of? Your participation is different. And he goes, I want to sit back more here and let the team lead more of this. Because what I am finding is that when I say something, that's it. That's the answer. That's the path. That's the direction. And he said, I'm not speaking first. I said, okay, good. Important for me to know. And so you're going to find yourself revisiting the agreements and also with the roles that the team leader is playing. I got 5-minute signal. Next, emphasis, creates and maintains a safe space for open and honest team member interaction. The point here I want to make about this one, 6, 8, 10 people holding a safe space, that's a lot of work. What I have found that's worked well is using myself in the team coaching. So working with the CEO, there was an issue that came up around support for team members and what happens when the project is going off track. And you could feel the uncomfortableness, you could feel that something wasn't being said. And this was the same CEO that didn't want to lead. And so I said, well, I'm confused. I don't understand where the support comes from. If I'm a member of this team and I need support on something, where do I go to Brian? Do I go to Lindsay? Do I go to the CEO? And so I used myself as a team member, and the CEO and I ended up in a conversation that around bicycles, training wheels, and holding the back of the seat of the bike, right? All as ways to let me know the level of support. That was not going to come out just by letting the team sit there. So sometimes you have to use yourself in order to create that open environment. So that led to a whole other conversation around how they would support and how decisions were being made. One more click. Okay, team as a single entity. Back to that again. This also goes to ethics, and I referred to it loosely. You're at a coffee break, you're at a team retreat, someone comes up to you and says, here's what's really going on with the team, and here's why things aren't working. And it's you and one other person. And as a team coach, you're there going, that's great. How would you like to share that in our next session? Because a lot of times, difficult conversations we had up here, they don't want to have those difficult conversations, and they want to use you to bring it up. And that's not your role. So with that, should bring us to the end. Yes, awesome. So questions, comments, things I can clarify?
Where I see some of the, first of all, I don't do team coaching, so thankfully, it's actually even for myself, because I do get asked. And I'll say, I don't do that, I have some people who I refer you to. I think what I've encountered is the difference between facilitation and coaching.
Mhm.
Because there is that element of you're the neutral party. I guess I just answered my own question. You're guiding the conversation. You still may ask questions, but as a you're still guiding. So I
Mhm.
think it has a
Yes.
bit more of a directive role than versus team coaching. And I like coaching. I just answered my own question.
Thank you, Lindsay. There's one other thing, so if you have a question, hang on, there's one other thing I want to point out, and to your point, the team coaching, some people have shared with me, oh my gosh, there's no way I'd ever do that, that I would work with 6, 8, 10 people at one time. And I'm like, I totally appreciate that. I happen to love it. Even if you're not going to do it, learn more about team coaching, because every leader that you're working with is leading a team. And I have found just as much use for what I've gained here with those individual leaders as I have with intact teams.
Barbara, in that last example about the team member pulling you to a side and asking you to bring it up and you push it back to them, if they do not bring that issue up in the team environment, do you just let it go? Do you try to have another conversation on the side? What do you do in that?
That is, if you handled it correctly when it comes to you, and how do you want to handle that with the team,
Mhm.
then you put it back to them. It is not yours, and no, you're not going to go running after them. The meeting, go, you didn't bring that up, how are you? It's theirs to own.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the training, the formal training required to become certified, do you have any specific recommendations for anybody in the room that have gone through any of that I can talk after this?
Yes, happy to share. I did a spreadsheet a year and a half ago. I'm sure it's completely out of date because there's so many more providers, but I'm happy to share what I know. And I know Celiana has resources, Cecilia has resources, maybe some others in here. We'd be happy to share.
Thank
All good? Rob.
Well, I just wanted to thank you about interlacing Berkman to the, your framework, and I thought that was a great, way to do that. And if anybody wants any info on Berkman, then just give me their card or their name and email, and I can reach out to them after that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we definitely want to give Barbara a round of applause. And then I would like to have Ms.
Well, thank you, Robert. You got me off to a great start. I just want to say a huge thank you to ICF for partnering with Berkman. We're really proud of what the coaches do. And to Trish Harris, who a couple of years before the pandemic kind of changed our whole lives. We were so excited to be moving to working with ICF as a sponsor. We moved to this space 48 hours before the shutdown. And as we got ready to move, I thought this will be such a great place to host ICF meetings. Now, here's my dream come true. You are here today. Some of you on hybrid, I know, but I'm so happy that you're here in person. There's nothing like seeing a room full of smiling faces. Barbara, outstanding. Thank you so much. We're, as you can tell, you know, we at Berkman International are so proud that Barbara is one of our Berkman certified coaches. And just to give you, I know time is of the essence, I'm going to talk fast. When my father started all this back after the Second World War, when social psychology, believe it or not, was a radical, extreme new concept for people. You have to think about dentistry at the time. And you know, where at the time they didn't have fluoride until the 50s and 60s, which is when Berkman started out in 1951. But here's the thing I thought about the other day. When we morphed from you wait till the tooth is rotten and then you pull it, which is unfortunately what happened. Even my grandparents wore dentures. So I figured, you know, if you're over 55 or 60, that's what's gonna happen. No, along came fluoride. And something else very important, along came preventive dentistry. Every 6 months, you go for a checkup. Now that took a human being, right? Dentists, no, so far robots aren't doing it. You guys are doing it. You're human beings. And I thought with combination of the fluoride, think of that as a tool. That's how I think of the Berkman method. But without you, without those vital connections that you make, no assessment does its job. Fluoride's no good if it's just sitting in a tube or in a bottle. The magic happens with you guys. And so what Dad realized back in 51 is, yes, thank you for the awareness piece. I will steal that. I love it. But the other thing is that he knew total awareness. It starts with self and it has to include other people. And if it doesn't include both self and others, which is why he called it a test of social comprehension, he knew that our perceptions of self and others formed such an important piece of how we relate to teams. So thank you, Barbara. I know my time is up, but like Rob said, I'm Sharon Berkman. We're happy to call, to meet with you anytime. We're happy to even give you a demo. If you'd like to see what Berkman looks like to walk through it, give us a call.
Thank you.
Oh, well, Trish, Carol, this is my team right here. Yeah. Yeah, the next one in person is October, and there might still be room.
But you know, do you want to go back just for the upcoming event? Okay, we're at wrap up. So thank you for hanging in there with us and giving your attention. Again, some of the things that we've talked about were the webinars, but we have a small group initiative and Elena is your point of contact. If you weren't able to join the meeting yesterday, she's collecting emails, so it is not too late. You can still participate. And then in September, we have some Florida webinar, and then we have vertical leadership development modules hosted by San Antonio. Joint happy hour, more details to come. As you can see, it actually feels like 98 instead of 108. So we are looking to do some more collaborating with other professional organizations. And then we have some stuff coming up in November. Coaching as a driver for organization success. It's going to be a panel of internal coaches representing various business industries and segments, so oil and gas, education, real estate. And so we're excited about that. And we are co-sponsoring that with HODN, and it will be here as well. And then of course, ATD conference Coaches Corner in October. That's gonna be October 5th. And then a credentialing webinar coming up in October. That's it. We've been working hard. And then we will send out an email to capture your feedback around today's session as well. And then Robin has been able to capture your attendance. And so the VA will send out your resource development credits.